Hello, world. Um, so I finally got myself together enough to kind of add to my whole video diary about my experience with pregnancy. So about 2 years ago, I made a video. It's been like a year and a half. I made a video about my miscarriage experience and how devastating that was. So now I'm currently pregnant. I'm 6 months pregnant with a baby boy. I'm very excited. Um, but there were a lot of challenges that came with this. I think it can be assumed that, you know, you want a baby for so long and then you finally get pregnant and it's like, oh joy, and everything is happy go lucky. But the reality is that's not the case. And that's not the case with a lot of women. So I wanted to talk about my experience with that. Um, I'm kind of just going to freeball it. I was going to write notes, but then I was like, that'll be so like not authentic. So yeah, we're just gonna talk this one out. So I found out I was pregnant in October. Just some background. So I had a miscarriage in November of 2019, and my mental health kind of went downhill from there. So one of the things that I experienced was just this really strong, really a strong, inaccurate belief that I couldn't have kids, right? So after the first couple of months where I spent just being sad about it, um, I then realized that, okay, I'm still not getting pregnant. So I got really upset and I started trying to find out what was wrong. I was going to the doctor. I was paying out of pocket for certain tests because, insurance only pays for but so much before they're like, okay, you're doing too much. So I had to pay out of pocket for a lot of things. I had my husband go take tests and we're getting all these results back and we're getting told there's nothing wrong with either one of you. So I came to the conclusion that the medical system sucks, number one, and that I'm not able to have kids. And this was something that I believed, but I believed it and I believed in it and I let it make me miserable, right? So I for a while I had no intention on like just living my life, right? So I gained a lot of weight, and in October of 2020, I was like, okay, I gained too much weight. Like one day, my husband and I went to go get massages, and I had him take a picture of me by a flower wall. And I noticed in the picture, like I never posted it. I noticed in the picture that I gained a lot of weight. And I didn't like it. So I knew that it was not happy weight. It was stress weight. My eating habits were just not good. My eating habits were not good. I was not working out. So I was like, okay, something has to change here. So my focus went from I'm unable to have kids to I need to get my physical and my mental health together. Um, so I started working out and I was working out at home. At first, I was working out in the gym, but we were still in the pandemic and the gym that I was by, like, it just I felt like they weren't doing their best to distance people. Like they had a long line outside and then you would go inside and it'd still be crowded. And it's like, so what's the line for? Like just, I didn't like it. So I started working out at home. Um and I started paying more attention to my diet. So I stopped using so much money to eat out. Oh, my husband and I, because he gained weight too, y'all. It was not just me. But my husband and I we started working out, we started eating healthier, eating out less. When we would go on dates, we'd pick like, cheap places. So we'd get ice cream or something, but we wouldn't get like 6 plates and bring them home, which is something that we were doing before. Um, so in March, in March of 2021, we went on a little mini vacation to Miami. And by that point, between October and March, I lost like 15 pounds. So we were both very confident. We went to Miami, we had fun, but I got my period on the trip. So the day before we were supposed to leave, I got my period and I was crying. I was like, there's no way. Like there's mind you, at this point I had already believed or convinced myself that I believed that I couldn't have kids, but getting my period just made me so upset, right? So it was then that I realized that my focus wasn't where it needed to be, right? Because the reality of it is, even if I wasn't able to have kids, if I wasn't able to carry to term, I still would have had to deal with that, right? That's still something that I would have had to process. And I wasn't processing anything, right? So I realized that on the trip that even in this beautiful place, because I love Miami, like that's like my favorite place to be. This beautiful place, this beautiful weather, we saw dolphins and it just was a beautiful experience. Um, and here it is getting ruined, completely ruined by my period. Like, no, that's not okay. So we came back from Miami and I was just like, okay, I need to start thinking a little bit differently. So I still continued with my physical health journey. So I was still working out. At that point, I stepped it up a notch because I was stronger. I lost some weight, so I was able to do more. So we definitely stepped up the workouts a notch. And then I want to say around July, I started working at this job that I really, really liked. But it was like long hours, right? So I loved the job. I absolutely loved it, but it was long hours and it wasn't close to my house. So I'm saying that to say there came a point where I wasn't even thinking about like not being able to have kids, right? So I went, this was a summer position, so I went June, we started, and then July and August, and I got 3 periods, obviously, and I wasn't really thinking about it. I just was like, okay, let me just pop some Advil and go to work. Um, and I wasn't thinking about it. So I don't know what that did for my mental health, but come September, I got my period at the end of August and into September, and I didn't think much of it for the first time ever. I did not think much of it at all. I just was like, okay, I got my period. Like, it was the first time that I wasn't like crying uncontrollably. It was the first time that I wasn't miserable at what my body is naturally supposed to do. I just got my period. And so I noticed it, but I didn't dwell on it because I was like, if I dwell on it, I'm going to think too hard about it. So I got it and I was like, okay, I got it. Cool. And I just went about my life, right? I wasn't upset or anything. And so at the end of September, um, we started planning for my birthday trip. So this is coming up to me finding out that I'm pregnant. We started planning for my birthday trip and we went to a place called the Getaway House and it was so nice. It was so nice. I absolutely loved it. And it was so relaxing. It was so different from what my husband and I normally do because we're normally like go to a swanky hotel, get the expensive dinner or the expensive lunch, get the expensive drinks. And we went out there and we did get some drinks. We got a lot of drinks, but we got them from a liquor store and there was nobody but me and him. And it was really romantic. It was really good. But I was supposed to get my period the day before we were supposed to leave. And so we went and I didn't get it. So I noticed that I didn't get it. He asked me, he's like, did you get it? And I'm like, no, I didn't get it. And I noticed it. And I just kind of just was like, okay, like I guess I figured that it was because I was stressed out about, not stressed, but we were doing a lot for the trip because we were both working at the time and we had very little time to do the things that we needed to do to go on the trip. So a lot of stuff ended up getting done like really late at night, super early in the morning before we would go to work on the weekends. Like we were really tired. So I just assumed, maybe I'm not taking care of myself in the best way. And by that point, I was really ramping up my workouts. So, and my diet was very different. So I figured like, there's a lot contributing to why I might not get it. And so we go on the trip. The trip was 5 days. So 3 days into the trip, I was like, oh, this is like late for me. Like this is like late. So we went another day. On the 5th day, we're getting ready to go home. So I'm just like worried because I'm thinking, it was a um 2.5 hour drive from our house. So I was just thinking, like, should we stop? Like, maybe this is one of those periods where, like, women out there, that, like, sometimes it comes on like a wrecking ball, and other times, like, you don't even know you have it until you go to the bathroom, right? So I'm thinking maybe this is one of those times. Like, maybe I'm lucky. Maybe I'm not having symptoms, but there's something going on. So I'm like, damn, like, should we pull over? Whatever. So we get home. Something really funny happened. I normally don't think about stuff like this, but I got really mad at Perry because we were gonna go park, and he turned the corner and this girl just like runs in front of the car. Like, sis did not see the car. Somehow, some way. She runs in front of the car, and we were both mad about it. I'm like, ugh. So he's looking at her, but he's got a mad face, but I don't care. My brain said he's like looking at her ass or something. And I don't normally think like that when we go out. When we come across other, I don't think like that, because I'm just like, you know who you're coming home with. Like, I don't. So I was just like, are you serious? Like, you're looking at her ass in front of me? He was like, what? He was so confused. He was so confused. And I was like legit upset. But then even after he explained, he was like, we almost hit her. Like, that's why I was looking at her like she's an idiot. Even after I explained, like, we parked the car, we're bringing our bags into the house, and I'm fuming. But I'm like, why am I fuming? So we put the bags in the house. I go get a pregnancy test from across the street. I come back in, I take it. Boom, positive. And so he kind of knew, or he'll tell you that he knew, because I don't know, he knows my body better than I do all of a sudden. But, he'll tell you that he knew, and he probably did. I did not. I think deep down I may have known, but I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't believe it. So I took the pregnancy test, and we came home on a Tuesday. So as soon as I got the positive, I immediately made an appointment, and I let them know, like, listen, I've had a miscarriage in the past. I got a positive pregnancy test. I want to get in as soon as possible and make sure that this is a viable pregnancy. So if you don't know, a viable pregnancy means that they're going to, usually what they do is they just look for a heartbeat. If the baby has a heartbeat, or if the embryo has a heartbeat, then it's a viable pregnancy. Now, I'm not a doctor or anything. This is not like a definite, but it's a pretty sure sign that your baby is viable. Now, any other issues that your kid may have will come up as time goes on, and it having a heartbeat does not then indicate that you won't have a miscarriage. Like, pregnancy is so weird. Your body literally does not belong to you. You can be taking extreme care of yourself, and these things will still happen. So I made an appointment, and I went to the appointment with Perry, and we found out a few days after that, viable pregnancy. So I made an appointment with an OB. Well, she was a midwife. I made an appointment with a midwife, and the appointment with the midwife was set to be at 10 weeks. I think 9 weeks, 9 or 10 weeks it was supposed to be. And between the time that I got the ultrasound, which was at 6 weeks, there was a month between. So I was really nervous. I was really scared. So this is where those things come up that I'm sure some people probably feel like you shouldn't have. So I was extremely nervous. So the reason why I was talking about my workouts and all that is because one thing that your doctors will tell you when you are pregnant, they will tell you you can do what you were doing before, right? So just like, obviously don't like wild out, but you can do what you were doing before. So if you were working out, you can and you should continue working out when you're pregnant. If you were taking walks every day, like whatever you were doing, they encourage you to do it when you're pregnant, because it is beneficial not just for you, but now it's also beneficial for your baby. I knew that. I was told that when we finally get to the appointment. I was told that, and I still was like, no, I can't. So on top of stopping everything that I was doing, being scared to do everything, there was also a really bad anxiety that I had. and I had an issue with checking for blood. So the way my miscarriage happened, the way my miscarriage happened, it just, I basically felt like every time I did certain things, the miscarriage, like that whole day, because this happened over a course of a day before I was like, okay, we have to go to the hospital. Like anytime I felt little things that reminded me of that, I would panic and immediately want to go to the hospital, right? So every time I went to, it just was a very anxiety stricken time. And this is something that a lot of women go through. So it's not like, okay, I have a miscarriage, I get pregnant, woo, it's not like that. I was going to the bathroom. Every time I went to the bathroom, I was checking for blood. Um, I would wake up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. In the beginning, it wasn't because of the pregnancy. It was more so because my doctor said to increase my water intake. So I was already drinking a lot of water, but I increased it. And so I was using the bathroom all day and all night. Okay. Everybody's different, but for me, the pregnant running to the bathroom all night didn't start until my second trimester. But for my first trimester, I was drinking a lot of water. I was going back and forth to the bathroom. I would get up and I would turn on the light. And, my husband was like, what are you doing? And I didn't tell him at first, but then after a while, I was like, I'm checking for blood. Like, I'm looking to see if I'm bleeding. And so he's pretty much going through the same thing that I'm going through, except he is trying to be the positive light on the side of it. So I'm like nervous, I'm freaked out, I don't want to do anything. I'm Googling everything. Like before I eat anything, before I take anything, before I drink anything, I was Googling it. And I mean like down to like lemonade. Like I was Googling everything, and don't do that. Google doesn't help. Google will tell you lemonade is about to kill you and you will think you're dying. So I was Googling everything, and he just was trying to be this other side of it. And I felt bad because I was like, I can only imagine what he's thinking, right? Because he went through it too. It's my body, it's my baby. I went through it physically and emotionally, but emotional is still a very important aspect, right? And so he went through that emotional part as well. And we spoke about it multiple times, but I'm sure there are still some things that I don't know about what he was feeling during that time, right? So now he's trying to be this positive light. And that was one thing that I went through, was like not trusting that I was going to make it past a certain point. And so when I hit the point that was past the point that I had the miscarriage before, I was really nervous. So I had a miscarriage before at 8 weeks. So when I reached 10 weeks, and we went to the appointment, I was like, okay, we kind of made it, but we're still not out of the clear. So 12 weeks and beyond is kind of when your risk of miscarriage decreases. It doesn't go away, but it decreases. So I was like, okay, it's been 10 weeks. Let's go to the doctor. So we ended up switching doctors because I didn't like we waited for like an hour at that office and nobody said anything to us. And then I finally asked, like, when are we going to get seen? And they were like, oh, the doctor's running late. There are 4 people in front of you. This is something you say. Like, as soon as you know, you're supposed to say it. So we ended up switching doctors. And I just ended up going back to my regular GYN, who was also an OB. I was like, I might as well just go. Like, we don't need a special, like, I know him, he knows me, whatever. So we go to the 10-week appointment and we find out everything is okay. And then time goes on and we hit 12 weeks. So at 12 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm still nervous, right? So what I want to say is, and sorry, I gotta get a little more comfortable. The main thing that I will say that I experienced outside of the worry and the anxiety, the main thing that I experienced was not being able to connect with my baby. Prior to this, when I was pregnant before I had the miscarriage, it was an instant connection because Perry and I went through a lot. And so this baby was a really positive thing for me. So, and it was a positive thing for him too. I keep like etching him out, but it was a really positive thing. And so I connected instantly. I didn't know what it was. I didn't care. I love this baby with all my heart. And so losing that baby, it was a real loss. So around this time, the biggest problem that I had was not being able to connect with my kid. And this was something that, on top of the worry and the anxiety, this saddened me because I was just like, it really sucks that I can't connect with him or her. Now I know it's a him, but it just, I couldn't put any cute nicknames. I couldn't, I would get symptoms. I didn't really have, I had morning sickness, but I wasn't really vomiting. I just was like nausea. So I would go through the nausea and then I would be like, okay, like I didn't want to make a connection to being pregnant because then I would have had to acknowledge that I was pregnant. Like I know it may not make sense, but it does to me. And this is, like I said, this is something that a lot of women go through. It's the inability to connect with your child, right? And usually this isn't a problem until, like, if you have your baby and you're still not connecting, that could be like postpartum, it could be a bunch of other stuff. But during pregnancy, it's like it's not I don't want to say it's not a big deal, but it's not like a medical thing. Like you can seek therapy and stuff, but when you're pregnant, if you're not connecting with your child, it could be for a variety of factors. Like you could be stressed out about finances, about family issues, and it can make it hard to connect. But when that baby comes, especially as a mom, you're supposed to be able to connect. And if you're not, this is something that you should talk to someone about. But during pregnancy, it's like it's different. So I wasn't able to connect and I felt bad about it. So I was dealing with that. I wasn't able to connect. I wasn't able to be happy. So we made the announcement at 12 weeks, even though for other reasons, I know now that for my next kid, nobody's going to know until that kid comes out. Because that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. Like that, it just was insane. But um pregnancy brain, I'm losing my train of thought. Damn it, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. So I'm just I'm just gonna continue with not being able to connect. So I wasn't able to connect. Oh right. I was talking about the announcement. So I made the announcement at 12 weeks and I wasn't able to be happy about it. So even though I made the announcement at 12 weeks, people started figuring it out beforehand. So I told two people. One person kept her mouth shut because that's what she told me she was going to do. The other person did not, even though that's what he told me he was going to do. And people started finding out before we made the announcement. And then when we made the announcement, people started reaching out and I couldn't be happy. I couldn't be happy. I was like, this is not happy for me. This is a worrisome time. I'm very stressed out. I'm very anxious. So these are the things that I was feeling. These are the things that a lot of people that are having their rainbow babies feel. If you don't know, rainbow baby is the baby that comes after you've had miscarriages or one miscarriage. So this is my rainbow baby. Very excited for him. Um, very excited for the whole experience, just to be a parent, I'm excited about the whole thing. But the point of this video was to say that I was not always excited. And if you know somebody who is kind of in the same position that I just described, be patient with them. Be patient, be caring, allow space for them, especially if you're the partner of somebody or the relative or something. It is not easy, right? You're not going to just have a miscarriage and go into your next pregnancy and be happy. It is stressful. It is not what people would think it should be. It is not, that's not really anybody's business, but be supportive. Just be there for them. I can say that my husband was there for me. But one thing that I wish, and this is something I've spoken to him about, so I'm not saying anything new. He's not going to see this and be like, what are you talking about? He knows that I've expressed this to him. One thing that I could say he could have done is validate, right? When you're trying to be supportive of somebody, what you don't want to do is take more of a what you're thinking is not what's going to happen approach. So, for example, like I mentioned that I was checking myself in the bathroom, right? I would check myself in the bathroom and look for blood, and he'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you don't have to do that. That's not what's going to happen. Um, and this was his way of being supportive. He was trying to get me to see in a positive light. And that is, I appreciated that. What I'm saying by don't invalidate is you have to acknowledge that this person is feeling some kind of way first, right? So don't immediately go to what you want the person to believe. Acknowledge that this person is feeling real things, right? That's the advice that I can give to someone who's dealing with something like this. You have to acknowledge the feelings because these feelings are real, right? Just be supportive, just be there for them. So I actually did my makeup today. I know you can't see because the angle is weird, but this is the first time that I did my makeup since I've been pregnant. Not okay. Since I've been pregnant, I have not really done much of anything. I've been putting on chapstick, and that's about it. But yeah, and my hair has been a mess, so I was like, let me put it in a ponytail at least. My self-care, and this is also something that went down the drain when I found out I was pregnant. My overall self-care, my overall self-love, the things that I did to make me feel good just went out the window. Which is also not something that you want to do. Encourage your loved one to take care of themselves, right? Because think about it, like if you know, God forbid it does, but if it were to go down the road that you think it's going to go down, you're going to be in an even more messed up place if you're not taking care of yourself. So encourage them to take a shower. So yeah, um, hopefully I make more videos because I feel like I should. I feel like it's important for me to express myself in this kind of way. I do journal, but sometimes talking is what works. So I want to talk about these things. I want people to see that we're, you know, we're here, we're on the same page. Also, I don't really see a lot of videos about pregnancy with people that look like me. Um, I don't mean to say it that way, but it's true though. I have been watching a lot of young women who are doing like pregnancy workout videos and my experience with this and my experience with that, and I enjoy them. I don't know their names right now. I enjoy them, but the reality of it is there's no representation. It's very little. So I also want to be that. So I don't want to like, I'm not monetized, so I don't care. So this is my belly. I have on underwear. Boxers rather, because my underwear fit weird. But this is my belly. My baby boy is kicking because he's probably starving, so I'm gonna go eat. And yeah, hopefully, you know, watch, listen, talk to me. What do you think? What's your experience been like? Peace out.